told me that, but maybe we'll have in time for the, because actually, probably they'll be sitting more in a room like the courtroom when we actually do a jury trial. And the only jury trials that we're going to be doing probably for the next 6 months will only be criminal defendants who are currently incarcerated in Gilmer County Jail. We're doing that in all 3 counties. We're doing jail cases first because they need to be moved.
Do you have your audio-visual stuff in place for that yet?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes. It is so wonderful. We're not bringing anybody over from the jail. We're not bringing anybody over from the state prison. I mean, it's just been in all 3 counties. It has been so good, and it's just, well, not only just the deputy time, bringing even just to and from the Gilmer County Jail, but you can imagine to and from any of the state prisons. So it has worked out extremely well. We've used it a lot. Matter of fact, I was in my Pickens County office today, and we did a Fannin County bond hearing, and the defendant was at the Fannin County Jail, the DA was in the DA's office in Fannin, the defense attorney was in his office in Cherokee County. So we were just, and the co-reporter, I said, I don't even know where you are, but just make sure you take everything down. So we had people in all different directions and went through it and no issues, and so it's great.
We also, when we ordered the air purifiers in UV, we ordered it for this room and for courtroom seats, so we've got 2 orders.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to break the news to you. When we have a jury trial, we're going to have it in here.
Well, we've got those devices ordered for you.
Okay. Well, but to be able to spread out. Because we have to do the, what the order says, and I just delivered the facial shields. The witnesses must have on facial shields. We must be able to socially distance the jurors with masks. The only place, because we're going to have, it takes 12 jurors to have a felony case, plus I'm going to do at least probably 3 to 5 alternates again in case someone on the jury gets sick or they have a family member gets sick, that we can go ahead with the case and not have to start over. So I think the only safe place that we can do that would be in this room. And luckily, with that, the way that's set up, we'll have 2 tables here, and then we'll do some chairs to have probably about 17 or 18 jurors in the room. So. But we're going to get through this. We've been through first time. I just don't remember.
I was going to say, really?
Yeah. I just got a call of a chief of police up in Blue Ridge. Very, I mean, he's one that worked out with weights and was very healthy.
Cersei?
And they had to rush him back by ambulance to Memorial Hospital in Chattanooga. And he's lost 45 pounds, and they called in the family, or maybe he wanted to try some experimental drugs or something. I mean, he's really
I knew he was not
bad.
well.
And he was just a picture of health.
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't it amazing how it hits people so differently?
Well, Mark Williams, who's a city police officer in Jasper, is in the hospital, and he's still on a vent. So, and he's also very healthy. One of those guys that, you know, stayed in shape. So and then other people get it and they don't have any symptoms.
They never even know they had it.
So this is why it's so different from the flu, because there's so many different. Usually, if I have the flu and you have the flu, we pretty much know it. We have pretty much the same symptoms, but this is just, COVID is just not that way. It's just not. It's just not.
Now, Cersei, does he have opposition for the post, or is he just
I'm
already?
thinking that he does. Maybe a female Democrat. I'm not. I'm thinking that he does.
There is a female Democrat running. I've seen the advertisements.
So.
So,
I am far away from you, so I'm going to take off my mask with your permission.
yeah, we're not quite 6 foot, but since we all work together every day anyway.
I forgot mine in the car, and the deputy gave me one, but it don't have the little.
It's the fact.
I have no straps.
I think that's the one where you're supposed to tear the strap from the end.
Is it?
And we're going to be using all those masks that y'all purchased for us. I don't know if you remember that when I said I needed as many.
I think that one's just
I mean, no, I'm good if y'all are good. I'm okay if y'all are okay.
I probably need to let you stand up here.
Which one you want to talk about first?
Well, she's got it listed, Judicial Administration first, how about that?
Well, I
Well-
think, Judge, here, we're only doing Superior, Juvenile, and Probation, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So it should be all of your
Oh, okay.
blue tabs.
Blue tabs, all right. I got you.
Yeah, I don't know that they're in that particular order, but they should be in that. Superior Court should be 27.
And see, overall, I think on that one, we went down 7%. Y'all don't mind that we went down, do you?
Yeah.
No, not a bit.
It says the,
Yes. Are you looking at, are you on Superior Court?
the first sheet that I have in my notebook that Angela and Tara made for me says Gilmer Superior Court. This one?
Total budget
Yes.
424.
Yes.
444, is that right?
Now, you have to start giving me all
424.
those numbers.
That's what you said.
Say that again.
Because mine says
424,
account number
444.
2150.
We were at 422,915 total, but you and I talked about Crime Victims Fund and that SAP fund coming in.
Okay, I think I probably, on the Social Security and Medicare,
Adjusted those.
those went up just a little bit, so
Okay.
that's the difference
Judge, you
between.
should be looking at this. Yes.
Okay. I'll keep you straight.
What she's saying is the total number here that I have at 422,915. She's got, what is your, you got 424?
424, 444. And that's because of the Social Security and the Medicare that was just automatically calculated
So
on those salary and wage lines.
this
And
one, because of these two going to Social Security.
I know.
So they,
Okay, so
Crazy financing. I've got a hard copy right here. Okay.
the only thing on this that worries me a little bit is the juror script, the 30,000
that's what she said.
for requested at 2021. And the reason I say that, that's going to be a little bit difficult for us to estimate because of the situation. We will be bringing in more jurors than normal in order to have enough people, and also we're supposed to be more liberal in excusing individuals. In other words, if they come in and say, I'm a caretaker for my mother, she's 83 years old, I'm asking the court to put me over to the next time because I'm concerned, and we're gonna do that. Not only as the Chief Justice said we're gonna do it, but I mean, I would just wanna do that anyway.
It's just the right thing to do.
It's just the right thing to do, so we're gonna be liberal in doing that. We won't keep doing it over and over and over, but certainly the first time when they come in, if there's issues like that, or they have individuals in their family that have health issues, we're gonna take all of that into consideration as well as their own health. You know, I'm in great health. I could serve Georgia 79. He probably would, well, nobody'd want him on the jury anyway, so. He was on the grand jury that was in March in Pickens County, and that one got continued. His heart was just broken. He said he'd never be on that again.
Judge, this is the item that's been changed a little bit, but the same text.
So, questions?
Sandy was reimbursed salaries.
They can probably explain that better than I can, but that's probably for, there are several employees
So,
in the court system that are shared by Fannin, Pickens, Gilmer.
Right, so, myself, my position, and then we have a, there's a law clerk that's shared by the circuit, so my position is a circuit position. Each county pays a third of my salary. We have a law clerk that is considered kind of a circuit position, that each county pays a third of her salary. And then Nicole Painter is our drug court coordinator. Half of her salary is grant paid, half of her salary is paid a third by each county. So all three of us are under Pickens County payroll, and so Pickens County bills the other two counties monthly for reimbursement.
So it's not really reimbursable, it's, I mean, we're not being reimbursed,
Right.
we're paying out. So
It
I
runs,
think
it goes,
Share of the third.
yeah.
Maybe
we're
struck
just
the
paying
word
her.
reimbursable. Or call it shared or something.
Okay.
That's my only question. I understand it.
But anywhere on these budget line items where you see that reimbursable, that's those three employees.
We have two law clerks that are state paid and one law clerk that's county paid. So that each Superior Court judge has a law clerk.
I don't have any particular questions.
Do y'all want me just to answer questions, or how do you guys represent this?
Y'all just wanna-
Anything that you want to volunteer is good.
Okay.
We, generally speaking, if we feel like we understand what we see there and don't have a serious problem with it, then we just kind of go to the next line item.
Okay. Do you have any questions over this one? This is pretty much, I guess it's pretty much been the way it's been for several different years, other than increases, as you were talking about, as far as the insurance or whatever else that you pay on that. Nothing has really changed in this particular budget. The only area that I want you to be aware of is that the requested budget line for jurors. You know, I would hope it would be less than that, but it may very well go back up to the 2019 actual amount. We're hoping not. We're going to see how it goes the first time. And then we will not have another jury trial week in these counties. We're having a jury trial week, you know, I think it's probably gonna take about 2 weeks by the time we get a jury and everything this first time. All three counties will have a jury trial the week of November 30th, and we have set the next one for the last week in January to try to have another criminal jury trial. Again, we're not having any civil trials until probably late summer, early fall of next year. Because we've got to decrease the number of people in the jails.
I did have a question on the South Fund court order payments.
Yes.
Looks like that's about quadrupled.
I'm
Well,
actually-
it's the same as last year in terms of allotment, but in terms of what was actually spent.
So Sandy and I have talked about that the last couple of years, and we kind of, I think we're headed in a direction this year where we're gonna pull that out and do something different, because it skews Judge Weaver's, the Superior Court budget.
Because it's not taxing.
Those are not general fund funds,
Right.
and the revenue is budgeted here, but the expenditures are budgeted, I think, somewhere else. Sandy, am I saying that right?
Well, the revenues are budgeted somewhere, the expenditures are budgeted here,
Okay.
the revenues are budgeted somewhere else. So I'm gonna move those out of this expenditure budget into their own, kind of like what we
Special
were talking
funds.
about with the other, because they're general fund bank accounts, but those are separate bank accounts, and the monies that go into those accounts are from fees and fines and
In
that
every,
kind of thing, and it can only be used for things that,
in every
that we
drug
would-
case, and now they've included DUI cases, every time we do a fine, we do an additional 1/2%, 1/2 of that fine that goes into this account. So it's funds that are paid by defendants, it's not any type of tax money. And a lot of times, you'll see that we put more money in there, but we don't need to use it because we get the grant monies. But we always want that to be available in the event that the grant monies are decreased for any of our accountability courts, but we've been very lucky so far that's not occurred. So, we try to conserve this money as much as possible. It's like rainy day money for, if at some point in time, the state grant money goes down for accountability courts, we want to be able to pull some of this money to keep the courts going. So we don't, none of this money is spent unless a Superior Court judge signs off on it. If the sheriff needs something, other courts, then they come and we sign off on it, and it's sort of set up that way. Gosh, when Judge Milam was a chief judge, that's a long time ago. But it's worked well because it helps you guys know how the money is spent, and it also helps us to know how much we're spending of it, because we try to be very conservative on that particular fund.
And that crime victims fund,
The same way.
only what we collect, and then twice a year, 3 times a year, we pay that out to the DA's office for the crime victims assistance.
The Victim Assistance Program, yes.
So if we collect $5,000, we pay out $5,000, so it comes in.
On the sweep account, yeah.
Right. Any other questions about this particular page?
Not me.
All right, thank you. My gallery office budgets are included in this. And then the next is just the, I guess, the backup for that.
Yes,
And,
yeah, the operating budget changes at the back. Down a little bit.
and on the second page of that same, any questions on that? The judges' operating funds, I think, went down this year. You'll see some of the different programs that the county, your county, as well as Fannin and Gilmer provide cash match for mental health court. And we already talked about the Nicole as far as the drug court. Where is that? Oh, at the top of the page, right. So for the state grants that we get, there's a cash match that is required. And so the 3 counties divide up the cash match for the felony drug court program, for the mental health program, for the veterans court program. Family treatment program is in the juvenile budget, so.
Judge, do you want to talk a little bit about the Appalachian Children's Center and Kids College?
I do. In the Kids Cottage is a visitation center, which is actually a visitation center that was created by a statute, which is a little bit unusual. That building is a building that is owned by Gilmer County, and you guys provide insurance and things of that nature, as well as providing funding for that program. One of the things that I would like to do, and I have talked to Rob Jones, we have over the years have got what we call a PISA grant, and that grant pays for assessments, it's pays for space, it pays for parenting sessions, a lot of different things. Frankly, I don't really think it's necessary. When we thought of the Kids Cottage and we thought of the Visitation Center in Pickens, the main goal is if you have a case, whether it be Superior Court or Juvenile Court, in which the parents, because of domestic abuse, mental health issues, drug issues, cannot visit with the child by themselves or at their home, then we wanted a space where that parent could visit that would be safe for the child, that we would have a law enforcement there, that the parent would be drug screened. And so, in talking to Robert Jones, they put money in their program every year for the visitation center. And I spoke to him and wanted to bring this up to you, that what I would like to do is combine the Pickens Visitation Center with Gilmer's Visitation Center and use Kids Cottage, the building that's located on Yukon Road, and that Pickens County would help fund that center in terms of helping to pay for staff, the deputy, and we think that we can do all of that based upon the cash match they have been providing for the PISA grant, along with the amount of money that you guys have provided each year, and that it would be coordinated and run by the board, Charlie, that you're a member of. And it would truly be a center in which what we're trying to do is provide that safe place for visitation. I mean, we don't really need all the code assessments, and we don't need a lot of things that the grant was paying for. And frankly, in talking to Angela, she does that grant, and talking to Ms. Fowler, my law clerk, who's worked on it a great deal over the years, we're paying for things that we really don't need. And you say, well, it's state money and federal money. Well, it's still our tax money. And so what I am really 98.9% sure that I want to do is to say to the commissioners in Pickens and the commissioners in Gilmer County is that let's take the money that you're currently putting into this facility and run it the way that we want it to run, and do away with a lot of the other services that we really truly just don't need. I mean, I don't need an assessment on this parent for me to determine they need to have supervised visitation. I've been doing this a long time. And the other judges, I think, would agree with that. When we refer someone for supervised visitation, we already know up front why, because of the evidence that was produced in the case. So we'd be serving a lot of the defacts families and a lot, not as many Superior Court cases, but for some of you that maybe you don't remember it, one time in the circuit for a parent to visit with their child, they had to visit in like a small room at the defects office or just any place that we could find, because we didn't have a facility. Now that is totally wrong, because you don't want children to remember visitation with their parents in a crowded room. And you know, they've used supply rooms, and I'm not criticizing defects, that's only the space that they had. So what we're hoping to do is to bring the two counties together and the board that's currently in charge of providing policy and direction to the Kids Cottage and using it for both counties. And I think by doing that, we will get more use out of the building. If you've never been over there, it's a beautiful facility. It is wonderful. So, and we can actually provide more services because it's a bigger space than even what we're using already in Pickens County. So that's the plan. And I'm 98.9% sure that's what I'm going to be recommending.
The cash match portion that Pickens will contribute, I think is said this number is not one that I chose. It's $16,666 is what was budgeted as the cash match portion. And so that's would be Pickens' contribution to share in the center.
Yes. And which that's fair, because you guys provide the building. So, and Rob, in talking to Rob, he does not have a problem with us handling it that way. He's willing, they're willing, though, even though we're going to turn down the grant, is to leave that amount of cash match in the program as long as it's used for a visitation center. He has no problem with us combining with Gilmer County to do that.
And this is $16,000 per year?
Yes.
If we're putting 48.
12.5.
I was thinking that was more.
But you're also providing some insurance in the building too.
Correct.
So it's going to
Now, would it be fair to assume that we would need to modify the board somewhat to give Pickens some representation?
Yes. Yes, I think that would be.
I would think that would be necessary. Okay. That's fine with me.
Sandy, do you, is that one, that's one of the billings quarterly that you contribute to that center quarterly?
Mhm.
So when I do my quarterly billing, I would do the same thing, just send them a check quarterly.
Yeah, they have their own, we have their own bank
Yeah.
account over there at the Kids Cottage, and I've talked to Craig, and he's okay with, because I said, what do you think the board would think about this? And he said, I think we'd be so happy because that's more money coming into our center. And so, I think by combining the two counties and the resources, that we'll be able to do everything that we want to do, maybe even better, because some of the procedures and things that are required from the state and federal grant, you know, you gotta have 49%, no more than 49% this, no more, and it's just a lot of paperwork. And I said, all I want is a visitation center. And, you know, the people that's running it right now, they do a great job, and I think it'll end up providing a better service for Pickens County than we had in the past. And I think it will ease some of the financial worries that the board and we all have in trying to make sure that the center stays open. So,
That is cool.
Yeah.
And I think that would be fair
I was
because,
double checking to make sure.
you know, we do, by the time we do the insurance and the maintenance on the building, I really believe that it'll even out.
I think that's what we thought. Because when we were talking about it, I said, well, they provide the insurance, other things for that.
Yeah, they Harvey, and Rob both are really big advocates, for visitation centers. So even though we would be negating the grant and the grant requirements, they both, was very, supportive of leaving that cash match in place and
Yeah.
using that as the contribution to combine the two counties.
Do you believe that whoever follows Rob will feel the same way?
I hope so, yes.
I know one would.
Okay.
And I know that the other two commissioners, I know that Jerry and Becky would be in favor of it, and I feel certain that the new chair would also feel comfortable doing that, and particularly if it's one. I don't know the other one as much as I know one. It's the reason I'm not trying to be political. I don't know one as much as I know the other, and I think that he would be interested in doing that. And I have no reason to think that the other candidate would not be just as much in favor of it as anyone else. I just not had a conversation. I don't know him well enough to really answer truthfully to you. I don't know him well enough to answer that question.
Well, as long as the two post commissioners are good with it, you know, it can go through.
And I certainly think they would be. And I plan to, at the budget meeting with them, is to talk about that a little bit more with them as well.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, great. What else? Anything else on there that, I think all of you are familiar with the Veterans Court, the Mental Health Court, the Felony Drug Court, pretrial and probation, that's separated out to a different category. So anything on that page that you would like to ask me questions about?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, Lois, what's next?
Juvenile court.
Juvenile. And unless some of the other figures have changed, that also went down. No, where we go? We go. Oops, sorry, yeah, okay. 2.5%. And that's a court order.
So last year, many of you may remember, we had some pretty significant cuts that we had to go through. And I think Sandy and I talked about after we had submitted, there were some additional cuts that were made, and it reduced the court reporter professional services line down to about $25,000. And so this year, because not knowing what court reporter and jurors and all that's going to look like, especially the court reporters in juvenile court, what that's going to look like, we wanted to put that back to what we originally requested last year, and that's where that 2.5% increase comes from.
And again, that money would only be spent if it's earned. In other words, you're not going to write us a check for $32,000. If the court reporter in the two courts, if there's more transcripts, we are having a lot of termination of parental rights cases right now in juvenile court. Those cases can last a week, anywhere from 3 to 5 days. We're hoping that we will not use the full 32,000.
Judge, if I can say this, what that line consists of, though, is the court reporter. There's a part-time attorney that serves as a conflict attorney in some cases. There's money in there for interpreters and also mediation. And I can
So
break
you
that-
put all of that.
I can break that down for you if you need those figures broke down. The mediation is 1,500, the interpreters are 3,000, the part-time attorney is 15,000, and the court reporters 13,333.
But in looking at, when you annualize, you still looking at only close to 12,000? Or was that, or did y'all combine some of the categories?
This year, because the court paying half is 11. So what we were doing is trying to just put it back to what we had originally requested last year.
I don't have any questions.
I don't think everything was good.
Thank you. Is that it?
And then we've got probation.
Okay.
Can I ask y'all one question?
Sure.
On the juvenile court side, like in Gilmer County, it's Karen Bowles.
Yes.
The person, her counterpart in Fannin and Higgins, do you know what they're paid?
Harry Dobbs is her, is in Fannin County, and is he paying her?
What position is it?
Karen Bowles, she's like the, I don't know,
In-
I call her the
indigent
indigent, juvenile
Okay, yes,
indigent
yes.
defense.
I want to say they're both at 60.
Okay, that's where we are. I just,
Yeah.
you know, wanted to, I just like to be sure that one county's not paying 75 and everybody else paying 60.
Yeah,
You know, so-
Fannon's at 60.
Okay.
And, let's see what Pickens.
I thought that we,
It's
Yeah,
about the same.
Pickens is at 60.
Okay.
Yep, they're all the same.
good, that's what I needed.
No, but they said probably.
And then, of course, they go across county lines to help each other in advance. That each parent needs an attorney, and a lot of times they're entitled to separate attorneys, which sounds strange, but it's really not.
So they help each other.
If he's a drug user and she's not, but, so they each have the right to have
They've got it all
a
picked
different
off.
attorney advocating for their position.
So they all kind of tag team, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were,
Yeah, they're all. And I believe all three also have budgeted the part-time conflict attorney at 15,000.
and is that what you were talking about, the second, okay, yeah. That's included in the 32,833.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's all spelled out on that beautiful little color-coded sheet that I gave you.
Right, and I try not to clutter them up too much with their, with their stuff.
These
so
numbers people.
I
It
have all that.
panicked me this morning. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't send Sandy my backup. So
Oh,
I
it's
was
fine.
flooding you with emails this morning, so I apologize.
Yeah,
That's where it gets so
no
crazy,
problem.
is they keep going through. It would have been
I was getting last minute emails from the probate judge too, and I was like, okay, Scott. You know better.
Wallace and Edge Road.
So we're on probate now,
Probation.
probation, sorry.
Where all that heat was.
Yeah, I know. Well, I get the,
So, that I don't know, but it just makes sense.
I get confused one with the other sometimes like that.
I mean, what you see.
You should have a copy of that.
Just a
Yeah,
little
the
ways.
probation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted to wait to Jones or if you wanted to keep
Out
going.
there.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I think he's,
Yeah.
Your salary and wages,
So it's off our.
come on, 2.5% increase, but actually decreasing from the first day.
Usually where's the water part is there. That's where all the digging is. That's what I like.
There's an overall increase of 3% if I'm reading
That's what
that.
I've got, Sandy. Were there changes?
I think that I moved, I've got 57,564.
Well, then all of a sudden.
Uh-huh.
That's what y'all,
Yeah.
yeah, 57,564, and then 26,065 $277 on that
Yes.
second line.
And that includes the 2.5% increase for both county employees.
I'm trying to think if there was anybody else.
What is your,
Yeah,
what's
it's
your
just top
total
here, you can
budget
see here,
number?
you can explain it to you.
Total budget number is
122,796.
Yes.
That's what mine is.
And so we're showing a total 3% increase, and I believe the majority of that's coming from the group insurance, because if you look at last year's compared to this year's, there's a significant increase.
I want to make sure that the decrease from the current budget.
On the, you're talking about on the salary and wage line? On the salary and wage line for 2020, I had 58,500. So the 57,564 is actually
It's
lower.
less.
Right.
Um,
But that does include a 2.5% increase.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's based on the salary sheet that you sent me, so,
That is just Amy and Karen,
correct.
Yes,
because Kevin is in that second line.
yes.
Let me look real quick at that sheet that you sent me. I know about it.
And I think what happened on the 26,000 as far as the group insurance, I think Amy went from maybe single coverage to family coverage.
I think there was a change
Yes.
in that.
And that is,
That makes a hefty
it does.
difference.
See, I know you sent me that salary sheet.
um,
It's more than your annualized estimate, it's just less than what was budgeted.
And I don't
So this year it was 119, 194, and next year it's 122, 796.
Yeah, so,
Do you have what y'all requested on that line last year, on that salary and wage line?
I, just the spreadsheet that you sent me, that's got the 58,500.
Okay. And that should be what y'all requested, I just wanted to
Yes.
make sure that I had picked
Yes,
y'all's
ma'am.
numbers up, correctly last year. Yeah, I've got, the salary sheet, did you find the salary sheet? It should reflect 56,160 is the current rate. So the 2.5% would be,
57,564. And everyone's familiar with the county probation law, correct?
So that second line under reimbursable, that's the chief probation officer that I was telling you guys is considered a circuit employee. Each county pays a third of that.
that's another one of those that we would change to share.
Sure.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
I don't have any questions.
I'm good.
Easy peasy.
That's it?
I know that Faye had emailed you about a time.
She did, and I had to reply to her. We would not be available until 3 o'clock or later that day,
On Tuesday?
the 20th.
Yes, Tuesday.
Oh, that would be great. 'cause I'm
But, and I
coordinating.
think Robin replied with the same response,
Okay.
because you and Stan may be involved in the same thing.
Stan's going, probably going to be the same thing.
Yeah, so Robin had replied with the same response, so if we could do after 3 o'clock,
That's perfect. I'm up here all day with court, so anytime y'all, the later in the day, the better, because I'll try
Okay.
to finish more of my court. But whenever you guys are ready, then I'll just stop and come in and then go back.
I think they had proposed at 2 o'clock on the
Originally,
20th.
yeah, 2.
Yeah, so, we'll see how Faye and Rob respond, and then we'll,
They'll probably be, I'm sure they'll be fine with it, because they were really hoping for Tuesday, so.
yeah, okay. as long as we can go after 3 o'clock, we should be good. And y'all will all come here?
Yes. Sure.
Because you said you were gonna be here anyway?
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Mutual meeting place.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very
It's
much.
good to see you again. I
Good to
see
see
you about
you, I
once a
know.
year.
Just a few times a year, that's
We
it.
talk on the phone, that's about it. I see Brenda maybe
I
another
do
time.
just want to say to you guys